Today, our big question is fiction and nonfiction. What's the big difference? I'm going to be showing you some differences between these two kinds of reading, two kinds of books that we use or texts that we use, and pay close attention to what the difference is so that you can name some ways that they're different at the end of this video. So here I have on the left a fiction passage, and on the right I have a nonfiction passage. Look for just a second and see if you can see what are some differences. There are several. How about here? Fiction is on the left and nonfiction is on the right. What do you notice is different and what do you notice is the same? Well, nonfiction text is sometimes called information text. You can probably see why in the pictures that you just saw. Nonfiction text has special features that fiction doesn't have. So there are things that we have in information books that fiction just won't have. Look right here on the left and on the right. What do you notice is different? Well, on the left I have fiction, and it's just simply a regular story, not much to it, right? But over here I have a nonfiction story, and there's a lot going on here. First of all, I have a photograph here, right? Then I have bold vocabulary words, and that's a big difference with nonfiction, is that there are lots and lots of important vocabulary words. These ones are blue. Often they're going to be bold. So it's something that's different than just a regular story. How about this? This is a huge difference in nonfiction text. This is called a diagram. And here we have a robot that has all of these parts, and in a diagram you have these labels that show what everything is. Very specific to nonfiction or information text that we might read. So this is a diagram. You may also see in information text things like this. This right here we would call certainly this is a map, and we would call this a chart or a graph, some kind of way to show with a picture the numbers that you've been reading about in the article. So here's a graph or chart on temperatures in this article. I still have some bold words just like I had in the other one, and that's something that you're going to see a lot when you're reading an information kind of passage. All right. Here we have another diagram. It's a picture that shows with more detail what you would read about in this article. So when you read information text, it's really important that you read all of the page, not just the words at the top, but you really look at the pictures, because that will help you comprehend even more. Some readers skip these kind of things, but you do that when you're using nonfiction text. This is a great example of an information text. It's on tornadoes, just like we're doing with our research. Look at the things that are different on this kind of reading than, say, Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Lightning Thief. The page itself is going to look a lot different. Think about it for a minute. Should you read this kind of a page really fast, or should you read it slowly? If you said slowly, you're right, because sometimes information text is a little bit more challenging because it's easy to rush through and not understand all the new vocabulary words and the information in the pictures and graphics. So it's really important to read slowly and to do what I call read the whole page. That means you read everything. You might even start with something like the pictures first and see what those say, and then read the passage. Look at what we have here. We have some great other text features, and they are, right here, I have what's called a caption. A caption is simply words that go with a picture, and they describe what's happening in the picture. The first time I saw this, I'm looking at this gentleman right here with this big ball over his head, this balloon, and I'm wondering what in the world is he doing there? Well, if I read the caption, it says that he's sending up a weather balloon, so that explains a lot for me. If I look here too, I still see what every nonfiction text will have. There's those vocabulary words, right? They're red, sometimes they're bold, but information text will always have a lot of vocabulary. I also have a map, just like we did in the last article we saw, And I have something else that's really, really important. Let me clear all these arrows so they don't confuse us. I have something else that's really, really important. In nonfiction text, I have these right here. Do you know what these are called? These are subheadings. So here I have the title, right at the top, The Return of the Vortex, and these red arrows are pointing to subheadings. It's kind of broken up the text into smaller parts, and it shows you what that part of the passage will be about. These are really, really helpful to pay attention to, and in a minute we'll practice using. Here I have another text feature, a table of contents. On the left, I have a table of contents from a fiction book. And on the right, I have a table of contents from a nonfiction book. Look at these carefully for a minute and see if you can see what the difference is. On this side, on the left, I'm just going to have details about the chapter and a basic idea of where the story is going. On the right, I can find all kinds of information and know what page I need to look for the information. Remember we talked about captions a minute ago? Look at those hailstones. And you can see if I didn't read that caption, I would miss this important information that, oh my goodness, these weigh more than 2 pounds. So it's really important, again, to read the whole page and make sure you look at captions. I like to even read those first before I read the words because it gives me an idea of where the article is going. Here's some more. You can see some other text features really well on this next page. You might not notice this, but sometimes information text uses what we call really bold font. Font is a name for letter styles that we use when we type words on a computer or for a book such as this. Well, here they've made the words "nose is wet" a different color. They've made it a little bit bigger. That's to grab your attention. Sometimes we call that attention-getting font. It's kind of like, read me, I'm interesting. So you'll want to make sure you look for that and pay attention again to the whole page. They've also changed the font down here. Look at that. It's a totally different color. It's even tilted to the side. And I still see some important vocabulary words. Up here they're black, and down here they're white. They're still bolded text, but it shows you where the important words are. Let's look at this. Here I'm going to start to ask you to make a prediction. Earlier I showed you that article on hailstones. Well, these are some subheadings. The subheadings will tell you basically what's coming next, what that part of the page is going to be about. It's important not to ignore these because they'll give you a lot of clues about what's going to follow in that section. And if you're looking for information, subheadings are really, really helpful. So I'm going to ask you something. For question 1, would you please look right here at the blue section? It says it's raining frogs. That section right there is all about raining frogs, and it's about hailstones and tornadoes. Can you make a prediction about what in the world that's going to be about? Go ahead and pause this if you need to, and write down for question 1, what do you predict this section, It's Raining Frogs, will be about? Now for question 2, let's do the same thing. Here I have Snowball Factory as a subheading. Can you down here for question 2, pause the video if you need to, make a prediction? What do you think that whole passage is going to be about, Snowball Factory? I've already looked at the captions and I know it has something to do with hailstones. I know it has something to do with tornadoes, so put that together and see if you can visualize or make an inference there. Write that down, your answer to question 1 and 2. And here's what it was about. You can pause this if you need to so you can read and check your prediction. See if you were right. There's the passage on It's Raining Frogs and there's the passage on Snowball Factory. See how helpful those subheadings were so that you would know what information goes there. Don't use those when you're researching. Now this is from the table of contents of an information text, and it shows you something very important. It shows you that usually towards the end of information books, you're going to see something called a glossary and an index. Do you know what the difference to these things are? Here I have a glossary, right? This is the glossary, and over here, this is the index. On question 3, go ahead and pause this if you need to. Would you please tell me what's the difference, do you think, between a glossary on the left and an index on the right. Go ahead and write your answer down if you think you know. Next, I have another page from the same table of contents. Don't forget to use this when you're reading information text to find really important information and to help you with your search instead of going page by page looking for what you need. Let me ask you this. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to. And for question 4, would you please tell me what page you could find information on how maybe the Spanish language traveled to Mexico? Go ahead and write the page number on question 4 to that answer using the information here. How do you think that the Spanish language got from Spain to Mexico? Where would I find that on the page in this book? And here I have a really cool piece of information text. This is about how crocodiles and alligators are different. I want you to pause the video, and for question 5, would you go ahead and make a list of all the text features that you notice here? There are quite a few. And for question 6, would you please write down 2 different text features you learned today and tell me what they're like? Think about all the different things that we saw in information text that were different from just fiction or story text. And just list 2. Tell me what they're used for. For question 7, how do you think using information text features could help you be a better reader? And question 8, think about your natural disaster research project. Why would using these text features, things like captions and bold print and attention-getting font and subheadings, table of contents, index, and glossary, how would those things be helpful when you are researching something? Think about your answer and write it down for question 8. Well, I hope this helped to prepare you to really use information text this week. When you're studying your natural disaster and doing your research, it's important to be a really good reader to know how to use these features well. Keep practicing.